There exists a demon that lives within you. It is not the stereotypical red-skinned creature possessing horns. It is something far worse, something fundamentally human, something you already know. It is the anger you continually nourish, the fury that boils quietly within your stomach whenever you are shown disrespect. It is that scorching sensation in your chest when circumstances unfold against your will. It is that component of your character which erupts without warning, damages your connections with others, reveals your vulnerabilities, and you persist in giving it more fuel. However, what if you were informed that a method existed to exterminate it, to lay it permanently to rest, to enable you to move calmly through intense adversity while all those around you are losing their composure? Miyamoto Musashi, who is considered by many to be the most lethal individual to have ever traversed Japan, accomplished precisely that. He was not merely a man who wielded a sword. He was a perfect instrument of war, encased in absolute quiet. He participated in more than 60 duels, where death was a possible outcome, and he emerged victorious from every single one. His success was not due to possessing the greater speed, nor was it because he had the most physical power. It was because he entered combat completely devoid of emotion. This is not a fictional story for children. This is the documented account of how one man eradicated his own anger and transformed himself into a legend. And now you will be taught his method. We must be completely and utterly honest with ourselves. Anger does not consistently grant you power. On the contrary, it makes you someone who is owned. Each instance you retaliate in fury, every time you have an explosive outburst, on every occasion that someone presses your triggers and you provide a reaction, you are revealing your strategy. You are explicitly informing the world precisely how it can manipulate you. Musashi comprehended this principle at a very early stage in his life. He came to the understanding that anger did not equate to potency. It was a restraint, a tether, a foreseeable reaction that rendered men simple to control and direct. Marcus Aurelius stated, "When you are disturbed by external things, it is not they that trouble you, but your own judgment of them." Read that statement once more. The reason this is so critical is that if an individual has the capacity to incite anger within you, then that individual possesses the ability to make you perform any action. You are not the one in command. You are simply a puppet, and the strings controlling your movements are your own emotions. Musashi severed those strings permanently. He conditioned himself to become completely unaffected by attempts to provoke him, to enter a fight with the same profound tranquility you would anticipate from a meditating monk. It did not matter what kind of insult was directed at him, nor how savage the battle became. He remained perpetually observant, perpetually composed. This was not due to an absence of emotions, but rather because he made a conscious decision not to be governed by them. Authentic strength is not measured by the force of your physical strikes. It is measured by how thoroughly impossible you are to provoke. This was the quality that rendered Musashi so frightening. It was not his sword, his physical stature, or his quickness. It was his unpredictability, his emptiness. A man who has no emotional triggers is a man you cannot manipulate, you cannot intimidate, and you cannot shatter. And that specific quality is the definition of genuine power. There is a particular story, one that is not widely known. When Musashi was still a young man, having only just left his teenage years, he issued a challenge to one of Japan's most accomplished swordsmen, Arima Kihei. Arima was highly proficient, self-assured, and ceremonial. He anticipated a formal duel conducted with swords. Musashi arrived extremely late, carrying nothing but a wooden stick he had carved. Arima ridiculed him, laughed at him, and hurled taunts. The majority of men would have fractured under that pressure, lashing out with a punch or responding from a place of pure emotion. Musashi simply observed. He was motionless, quiet, and analytical. Then he delivered a strike that was powerful, swift, and it resulted in the death of his opponent. There was no rage, no shouting, no dramatic performance, only a brutal, dispassionate execution. Musashi did not engage in combat fueled by emotion. He fought with heightened awareness. He fought with the impartial finality of death personified. Anger is not a form of strength. Authentic power is located exclusively within the domain of control. Musashi did not simply swing his swords mechanically. He dedicated himself to studying the human mind. He mastered his own anger. He wrote in his teachings, "Do nothing which is of no use." Anger, if it is not applied correctly, is nearly always without any useful purpose. You may believe it assists you in winning arguments. In reality, it merely demonstrates that you are weak. You may believe it aids you during a conflict. In truth, it brings a smile to the faces of your enemies. They recognize that they have already gained control over you. The human mind can be compared to a blade. When you allow it to corrode with unchecked emotion, it becomes dull and ineffective. But when you maintain it in a state of stillness, sharpness, and silence, it becomes capable of cutting through any obstacle. Let us make this directly applicable to you. Why do you become angry? Perhaps someone insults you. Perhaps life seems unjust. Perhaps another driver cuts you off in traffic. Here is the difficult reality you must accept. You become angry because you operate under the belief that you are entitled to control things you were never intended to control. You believe the world owes you a certain level of respect. You believe other people should conduct themselves according to your preferences. You believe life is supposed to be fair. Musashi would tell you that you are attached, and that attachment is the fundamental origin of all suffering. Musashi trained himself to anticipate absolutely nothing from the world. He journeyed by himself. He slept on the ground. He trained not only his physical body, but also his very soul to become impervious. He sought no comfort, no luxury, and no illusory sense of control. And as a direct result of this, no one had the power to make him angry. You do not conquer anger by shouting into a pillow or by completing 100 push-ups. You conquer it by training your mind with the same discipline you would apply to sharpening a blade. This is how Musashi accomplished it. Musashi slept outdoors, consumed very little food, and actively avoided fame and wealth. He held the conviction that comfort weakens the mind, and a weak mind is easily triggered. You should attempt this. Select one comfort in your life and eliminate it. Take cold showers. Remove sugar from your diet. Abstain from social media. Whatever causes you to feel unease, eliminate it. Become accustomed to seeking discomfort. You will come to understand that the majority of your anger was merely a disguised form of entitlement. No. Reaction is the ultimate weapon. Musashi would remain silent for extended periods, hours, even days. While he was training, he conditioned himself to observe events without producing a reaction. The next time someone insults you, simply pause. Do not offer a reply. Do not attempt to defend yourself. Just watch them. You will feel the balance of power change immediately. Every morning, Musashi would meditate upon the reality of his own mortality. Why would he do this? Because a man who has no fear of dying cannot be shaken by anything of lesser consequence. Musashi wrote, "Think lightly of yourself and deeply of the world. Anger diminishes in significance when death becomes your constant companion. What importance does a traffic jam or a rude comment hold when compared to the vastness of the void?" At its very foundation, anger is the ego concealing itself behind a mask. You do not become angry because the world is a cruel place. You become angry because your self-image is being threatened. You become enraged when your pride is injured, when someone has the audacity to question your value. You feel invisible, disrespected, or ignored. But here is the truth that Musashi understood more profoundly than anyone. The ego is a weakness that disguises itself as a sign of importance. And the more you feed it, the more brittle and fragile you become. Musashi's solution was simple and absolute. Kill the ego. Burn it, starve it, leave its remains behind. He did not concern himself with whether people liked him. He did not care if his name would be remembered throughout history. He did not cling to praise, validation, or social status. He did not wear expensive garments. He did not pursue the approval of others. He did not smile for an audience, because he knew this fundamental principle. The more you desire recognition, the simpler you are to control. The more you connect your identity to the perceptions of other people, the more power you grant them to destroy you. Musashi moved through the world like a shadow, detached, free, and silent. He lived like a ghost because he comprehended one paramount thing. A man who has nothing to prove is a man whom no one can provoke. When you kill the ego, insults transform into meaningless noise. Criticism transforms into neutral information. Rejection becomes irrelevant. And anger? It dies, because there is no longer anything left inside of you that requires defense. If you wish to become untouchable, do not attempt to construct thicker armor. Instead, burn the ego that believes it needs protection, because the warrior who has no pride remaining to be wounded is the one you should fear above all others. Let us conclude with this account. Musashi's most famous duel was against Sasaki Kojiro. Kojiro was a celebrated master, a national celebrity, known for his speed, elegance, and deadliness. Musashi arrived at the dueling ground several hours late, not due to laziness, but because his intention was to make Kojiro angry, frustrated, and psychologically unbalanced. By the time Musashi appeared, Kojiro was seething with rage. Musashi stepped off his boat, possessing the calmness of a stone, and he was holding a wooden sword he had carved from an oar. Kojiro launched himself forward, consumed by fury. Musashi, remaining perfectly calculated, struck a single blow. Kojiro fell dead. That is the result that anger delivers to you. This is not about play acting as a samurai from the past. It is about integrating their core principles into your modern life. Emptiness, detachment, precision, and silence. If you desire to cease being an angry person, you must cease reacting and instead begin watching. You must cease expecting and instead begin detaching. You must cease screaming and instead begin sharpening your mind. And you must always remember, the quieter you become internally, the more formidable you become in all your endeavors. The way of the warrior is the resolute acceptance of death, is another quote from Musashi. When you no longer experience fear in the face of discomfort, when you stop requiring other people to behave in the manner you prefer, when you can look directly at death and laugh, there will be no anger remaining within you. Only stillness and only power. Thank you for watching. If you are interested in seeing more videos, please ensure to press the like and subscribe button. I will see you in the next video.